Hi. How many of you are believing to be real? Non-Christians don't have any problem being real in a way. They're completely unconvicted about their behaviour, their attitudes, who they are and everything, because it's all masqueraded in what New Agers call the third density. So New Agers reckon they're a bit above that. But the third density, the more you see it, is this materialistic, little more than brute beast, really. It doesn't matter how intellectually you speak and articulate. Bertrand Russell was extraordinary in his articulation, but he would go off with any woman right in front of his wife, without compunction. So he wasn't anything to write home about, however posh he spoke. But non-Christians are happy just being who they are, and they're kind of masqueraded by having peers that are all the same anyway. So they're fine. The problem occurs when you start going against the flow. Now, the thing with accepting Jesus is we're born again in an instant, and we're baptized. If we want to be, we can be baptized in the Spirit in an instant. But that doesn't mean the rest of our soul is completely comfortable. And I can't fake the fact that there's no halo here. William Branham actually had some lights showing up. I'm not sure how visible. Perhaps they're only visible to people who could see such things, but certainly they showed up on a camera, apparently. I don't think it was just lights. Being real, you've got this problem because it's like you're offering your body, and Jesus has to show up, and he then has to structure your day, and you have to believe that everything that comes your way, and it increasingly gets bad, is God. You have to believe that through it all, God is working everything out for his good purposes. And you can't fake anything. You have all attempts at ministry and looking good in ministry stripped away from you. And Jesus went through a short, sharp version. So he was baptized in the Spirit, and then he was driven into the wilderness, and he couldn't do a thing that God wasn't doing. So if he wasn't raising bread from a stone, he couldn't do it, however hungry he was. I think all three testings happened when he was at his weakest on the 40th day. That's when the devil came. That's when he comes, when we're really weak, when we're up against it, or when he has engineered that we are up against it. And then he comes. Certainly Peter Bassi went through a time like that. That's when the Illuminati came to his door a few weeks ago and offered him everything. And then they'd pay his hospital bill. That's very sweet of them, isn't it? So, if God doesn't show up, that's the thing. If God doesn't show up, what are you going to do? You're still going to hold your services, aren't you? You're still going to put your advertising out. You're still going to wear posh suits. You're still going to attempt that everything's okay, but you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. If we're gonna come right out of Genesis 3, you've got to believe your way out of it, because you're in it. You're stuck in it. We're stuck in it. It's the sin which clings so closely. It's not actually the drugs, the sex, the lying, the thieving. It's not that. It's the tree of good that clings so close. It's Genesis 3. It's all our attempts at putting on a good show. That's what clings so close. We have to put everything else. I mean, it's one of the reasons why you see me all the time in this scruffy gear. I am literally talking to you, you know, in the midst of my day job. And why am I in my day job? Well, much like G.H. Warner, we're in our day jobs still because nobody on earth wants to hear the third level of 1 John 2. Everyone wants to play their games in charismatic movement. I've just been sent someone with posh video, posh music, glamorizing the fact that they put someone in water, you know, baptizing people in water, and presenting to everybody how good they are at giving out to the poor. So you'll give them money to help them give to the poor at third remove, way away from where you are, where it could harm you and get you muddy. Oh, they know their stuff, these charismatics. Oh, they've got it down to a T. They've worked at it now for 100 years. Oh, they're so professional. It's all the tree of good. It's all the tree of good. It's got to go. Got to go to the cross. The only thing that will ever minister to anybody is Jesus naturally coming out of your life, which is now dead. You've now died with Christ. And this is actually so for every born again person. Have you you not noticed, I've noticed this, that usually God uses, until we're more mature and more ripped apart full time, the great times of your greatest moves will probably accompany the times of the greatest shame and sin and everything, so that you're cast upon God the most, and then he works the greatest victories. So all this posh stuff that you're trying to put on that doesn't get past prophets, we can see straight through that guff and all that crap, as most people can. I mean, non-Christians can. That's why they're not rushing into the churches. It says, I don't know if you know this, but it says, if I be lifted up, Jesus says, if I be lifted up, then I will draw all men unto me. Now, last time I looked, most churches weren't being hammered down by men, women and children bashing the doors, saying, come, let us get in. Last time I looked. So it's a simple equation. Jesus is not being lifted up. The person that's being lifted up is the pastor. The usurper, the twister, the deceiver, the one who nicked the position of being at the top of a pyramid when it's not in the Bible. The Saul, the one who says, I forced myself to do the work of God and rule and be in dominion and be narcissistic and get this work of God going, because otherwise it won't work in the earth. And I want to dominate and rule, and I want you to worship me as a wonderful pastor. Why is no one coming to our church? God is really getting down to roots in these days, and he's doing it right across the earth to do with presidents and kings and governments. They've enjoyed their time, and they have been useful because they have kept the earth from killing each other, well, more than usual. They've also caused wars, but without rule. Oh, hi. Without rule, you know, and while still in the flesh, and without sin and judgment, the law of sin and judgment, we'd all be dead because we'd all kill each other, much like actually was happening before the flood. So yeah, I keep forgetting I've got to look up there. So that's what's happening right across the board. When I was in worship in 2009, and I heard the thunder, what sounded like thunder in the heavenlies, and then I learned that it was the furniture of God moving. I was thinking entirely in terms of the church. And when God said in 2012, I want you to study the rest of the gates. We knew some of the gates of Jerusalem, but I want you to study the rest of the gates. So I came, dutifully came to gate number 10, which was Gate of Mifkad. And I was just thinking in terms of the church and God freshly ordering and bringing order into the church. And anyway, Jack Fortenberry, if you remember, some of you have been reading my blog longer, you'll know that Jack Fortenberry had contacted me and about Corinthian elders. And Corinthian elders is about the fact that there's no scripture whatsoever about a pastor, or an apostle actually, leading a church as a pyramid. There's only about elders and only about a whole match of elders, mass of different types of elders. Like in Ephesians 4 it says. But all with specific giftings and gracings in the Spirit. We don't obey any of that. Or if we do, they're somehow special now. They're top tier people. And so I thought, give the door of Mifkad, the gate of Mifkad, which is the judgment gate, which we've referred to the elders, both checking the worship, checking the animals for worship, and also judging between the cases of the people. So that all 12 tribes, all elders from 12 tribes would be in that gate. And now it's elders, and it's also the congregation weighing in the Spirit as priests. We're all priests now, so we're weighing things in the Spirit. But I never thought it was the world as well. It really is. As in the supernatural, so in the natural. That is what is going on behind the surfaces, underneath the surfaces of BBC and all the lying media. What's really going on is the pyramids of this world are crumbling, are shaking. They're being exposed for all their trickery and deceit, and Albert Pike's letter, and the world wars, and the bankers, and the education system, and the lies. It's all coming down in the background for those that are watching the videos. Those who are watching alternative media, for 10 years, we watched as each thing emerged, each thing's so gobsmacking. So I don't know what the rest of you are going to feel like when it all comes out tumbling at once. We've had 10 years to get used to this stuff. But it's happening in the natural, it's happening in the spirit. You may like the way you run church, it's tough. Jesus is Lord. He said, if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men to me. Sorry, pastors. It's not that pastors don't exist, please. No, but what's happened is, if it's Matthew, Mark, Luke's and John's, and Matthew's are the administrative types, and in the flesh, as most pastors still are, in the flesh, they scrabble their way to the top of the greasy pole, albeit with charismatic gifting, tremendous stuff, it really is stuff, and they do talk about Jesus every so often. They haven't got that lamb character. They haven't got that lamb heart. They haven't gone into the ground and died, because they dwell and minister alone. They testify before the world that they're not dead by the way they behave, by the churches up and down the high street, all called by different names, when there is only one church. Those who have all been into the ground, they meet together and they minister together in the Spirit. And the moment they're outside churches, because the real church isn't in the buildings, because Jesus is already Lord, and the sons of God already follow the Spirit. They're waiting for the immature ones. It says in Song of Solomon anyway, that they're the ones tucked away in these little matrices and these little lattices behind the lattice. And Jesus is saying all the time, he's always coming to the door saying, well, come out with me, come skip on the mountains, come down to the beds of myrrh. But all the daughters in all the churches, all the daughters of Jerusalem are saying, I'm washed, I'm ready for bed. What? Go outside? I've got a pastor. I've got a pyramid pastor. I've got a pharaoh looking after me. He's my covering. Well, yeah, Jesus, yeah, you can be a bit on the side, sort of like a fag break, the real Jesus, but I can't stand too much of you. Oh dear. You see how big this all is? This is really, really big.